Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Astronomy and Coffee for this Monday, August 21st. Is it 21st? Yes. Well, we're going to go over a few things today that I find pretty interesting. A very special show for you today is going to be a show based on some deep sky objects, as well as an explanation on the odd behavior of that interstellar object that visited us a couple years back. Oumuamua was the name of the object, and we'll cover that at the end. So first up, let's go over here and take a look at our first deep sky object that we can find in our nighttime sky. It is going to be NGC 7000, or the North American Nebula. Now, last week we went over the summer triangle, so you may be familiar already with Cygnus the Swan. Well, in Cygnus the Swan, we can find a nebula called the North American Nebula, or NGC 7000. Now, you can see this pink area right here represents or resembles North America. If you kind of tilt your head to the side, like kind of to your left, over your left shoulder there. So here is the U.S. region that appears to be the U.S., and then down here is the formation that kind of looks like Mexico. This region separating the North American Nebula and the Pelican Nebula up here, this dark region, which would be the Gulf of Mexico, this is known as LDN 935. So this is a dark column of dust separating the two star-forming regions. Now, you can find this for yourself with the help of some small binoculars, because it is barely visible to the naked eye, but you might need some help from those binoculars or a small telescope to be able to see this. Now, this nebula is about 2,590 light years away, 2,590 light years away from us, and the North American portion of the nebula stretches around 90 light years. So from here to here, around 90 light years. This distance was measured only recently, since it was very hard to determine how far away it was. Now, scientists were able to finally be able to measure this distance because of some stars they found inside there. They were able to measure the distance between us and those stars, thus coming up with this number. Now, this nebula is a cloud of interstellar gas ionized from within by young, hot stars. So now we're going to move on from this North American Nebula over to something called the Helix Nebula. Now, if you look down by the east and the southeast area, almost directly under Saturn and in the constellation Aquarius, you'll find another nebula called the Helix Nebula. Now, this will be hard to find unless you have a clear, dark night. It's about 600 light years away, making it the closest nebula to us, the closest planetary nebula to us here on Earth. Now, what is a planetary nebula? It is a region of cosmic gas and dust formed from the cast-off outer layers of a dying star. Now, you may be thinking, is this where planets are formed? But actually, no. Now, despite its name, a planetary nebula has nothing to do with planets. Now, this misnomer comes from a sort of historical misclassification some 250 years ago, when astronomers thought they were looking at gas planets when they observed these colorful spectacles of these planetary nebula through their less powerful telescopes. Now, like the North American Nebula, this nebula is going to be hard to see, so you'll need some binoculars or a low-power telescope. Now, if you have very good vision and you can find some location with no light pollution, you will be able to see this with the unaided eye. But around here in Baton Rouge, you won't be able to find a spot without some type of light pollution, so you'll have to find some dark spot, maybe somewhere in Mississippi. I don't know. You can, again, look up the light pollution map for yourself to find the best, most unlight polluted area. So I would suggest doing that if you really want to find this for yourself with the unaided eye. Well, moving on now to another deep sky object. We went from the North American Nebula to the Helix Nebula, and now we're going to visit something called the Cat's Paw Nebula, or NGC 6334. So you might be wondering, so far, On a little trip here along the cosmos and from our own backyard here, you might be wondering, what is the deal with these nebulae being named with the NGC? Well, the NGC stands for the New General Catalog. Now, this kind of dates back to a time in the late 1700s when William Herschel and his sister Caroline, these were both amateur astronomers, they were scanning the skies for these amorphous clouds, as they had described them. Now, they eventually published their catalog of nebulae and clusters of stars in 1786, which contained about 1,000 objects and their positions. Now, William's son got into the mix as well, and he started to list objects for himself from his location in South Africa. Now, eventually, in 1864, the General Catalog of Nebulae and Clusters had recorded over 5,000 objects. Now, over time, more people got involved, and this became known as the New General Catalog. Well, the Cat's Paw Nebula, or NGC 6334, is an emission nebula, and this can be found in Scorpius the Scorpion. It's about 5,500 light years away from us, and you'll notice this red color that originates from the abundance of ionized hydrogen atoms. Now, it gets its name for how this section over here looks like a cat's paw. Now, that being said, I once took a picture of my cat under glass. I was under the glass. The cat was above me here on my desk. So this kind of reminds me of this particular picture. Now, basically, I put some puree treat on the glass at my desk and took a picture of her eating it from below the desk. Now, did I bring this nebula up just so I can put up a picture of my cat? Yes, I did. I just wanted to show a picture of my cat. Now, you may remember a couple years back that there was the discovery of the first interstellar object to enter our solar system. This was called Oumuamua, and it had this really weird shape to it. Now, usually asteroids and comets have a roundish, spherical-like shape to them, but this one looked kind of like a flying cigar. Now, some even speculated that it was some type of spaceship from a different solar system. Maybe it had gathered rocks and debris and dust around it over a period of time as it tumbled towards us. But it's actually a pretty small object, relatively speaking. It's about 303,000 feet by 115 and 548 feet. Now, aside from its odd shape, it exhibited no signs of a coma and has non-gravitational acceleration. Now, instead of spinning, it also tumbles. So a lot of questions were being posed to this particular object. Now, also, another strange detail about Oumuamua was how it decelerated as it left the sun. Now, comets do this too, but Oumuamua did so in a very strange way that could not be explained by gravity alone. So this stumped astrophysicists out there for a while. Now, recently they came up with an explanation, and it goes like this. Basically, cosmic radiation cooked the comet as it traveled through interstellar space, and as cosmic rays penetrated tens of meters into the ice, they converted a percentage of the water molecules into molecular hydrogen. Now, this trapped hydrogen was then released when the sun warmed the comet. Now, this outgassing explains a lot of the mysteries surrounding this object, and this outgassing explains this deceleration, which didn't quite correspond with the gravitational information of how it would normally, an object like this would normally decelerate. So it just goes to show that with a little bit of research and some time and some patience, some reasonable conclusions can be drawn without having to resort to fantastical explanations. Now, we do also have some upcoming events at the Louisiana Art and Science Museum. So I want you all to come by and check out our Celestial Imaginings exhibit. Now, this will run through January 28th. And the Artist of Louisiana Art and Science Museum's exhibition of this Celestial Imaginings, Artists Exploring the Galleries. They have used scientific processes, made observations, and studied the mechanics of the universe. They have used those investigations to inspire their work and spark the imagination of both themselves and audiences of all backgrounds. They are exploring the cosmos by creating original artworks inspired by the science of the world around us. These artists and scientists are often found gazing at the sky and making sense of what they see. Now, in that vein, I want to talk a little bit about a show we have here called In Saturn's Rings. It is my personal favorite show. Now, this is a very unique show, and it does not use computer-generated imagery. Instead, the film painstakingly employs multi-pane photo animation with image processing done by hundreds of volunteers. It has over 7.5 million mostly unseen images from the Cassini-Huygens mission to Saturn, the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, and the Hubble telescope. Let's take a second here to look at a 360-degree tour, or a 360-degree look at what it looks like inside the theater. Now, I took this with a Ryko Z1 360-degree camera here, so you can kind of get a feel for the environment of the theater as well as how much this particular show covers the dome. Now, we have large format films that look like this, so it doesn't quite cover the entire dome, but the majority of the dome. And then we also have full dome shows, which covers the entire dome. And these, of course, are preceded by a Sky Tonight show. Aside from In Saturn's Rings, we do have a new show coming up called Beautifica. And if you were one of the lucky few people to, we wasn't few, we had quite a nice crowd consistently for Mesmerica. So if you saw Mesmerica, then you will like Beautifica because it is from the same people. It will be on a limited run here. Well, this is a 360 journey through worlds real and imagined, from mind-blowing particle fields of fantastical environments almost impossible to describe. Now, it's suitable for all ages, and the first show will be Saturday, September 9th. And you can go to this website. I'll put on the screen right here. You can go to this website to purchase your own tickets for this show. So yes, we will be pre-selling tickets for the show, and that is how you get them to come see it. So go ahead and get them now if you can. And with that, let's go ahead and conclude another fantastic, very special episode of Astronomy and Coffee. And I will see you next week, where we will talk about, I have no idea. It's going to be some recent developments that are going on out there. So we'll talk a little bit about what is going on up in the sky, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.